Our conscious awareness communicates through logic, rationale, explanations, planning, specifics, details, thoughts, narrative. Let's see. Thoughts, words, and verbal narrative, right? Whereas our subconscious communicates in very general feelings, emotions, body sensations. And so if we're ignoring the things that we're experiencing in our body, if we're ignoring the emotions we have, and ignoring, it doesn't have to mean pretending it's not there. We can invalidate it and ignore them that way. It's easier to ignore something if you say you're not important. And so in this process of invalidating or trying to escape, we ignore our true selves. And so we have to pay attention to the very general stuff. Things don't have to make sense all the time. Does not logically make sense. Okay, so we have to make sure we're speaking the language in order for it to be effective. So, let's see. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm hoping my friend can join for this. Okay. So, all right. So that's the language of the consciousness. Language of our conscious. Right? So, why is it important to speak to our subconscious? Because this right here is in our conscious awareness. Whereas the majority of our beings, the majority of who we are, how we think, why we feel the things we feel, why we do the things we do, why we are the way we are, why we have the preferences that we do, why we have the impulses that we do, it is all coming from our subconscious. And if we're ignoring all of this and wondering why our well-being isn't much, if you only pay attention to a fraction of things, the rest is just going to go to poo-poo. Just going to go to poo-poo magoo. Poo-poo, 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 poo. I know, littles don't want to say shit. But someone wanted to say it. So if we're only paying attention to 5% of who we are not living in our power. We are unhappy. Our health suffers on a variety of levels, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, every capacity. Our potential suffers, well-being and potential, well-being, potential suffers. And then because all of these things are suffering, in turn, our relationships suffer, the ability to strive for goals is non-existent. All sorts of things can happen. Our physical health suffers. So dis-ease, it starts as an energy thing. Only over time does it actually manifest as disease, right? And so if we can catch things when it's still in that energy thing rather than fully manifested in our body, we're totally going to reclaim our power, and we're not going to have to suffer the way that we would otherwise have had to suffer. Your notes and drawings are so helpful. That's so encouraging. I legitimately, drawing has just like never been my strong suit, and so I would avoid doing it because it would bring up all these insecurities of like, you tried to be an artist and failed. So it really means a lot to hear. Thank you. I'm really glad this is helpful. It brings me life to be able to share this with you. So conscious and subconscious have two different languages. We have to make sure that we're communicating the way that we, the way that it happens. Because if we're using this to try and communicate down here, it's literally a foreign language. It gets lost. It gets completely lost. And then our conscious awareness is only 5% of who we are. Our subconscious is 95% of who we are. And so, oh yeah, and then the other thing that can suffer, go over here, is loss of identity, low self-worth, no solid sense of self. Okay? So that's why it's important. Okay? And then so why it's important, the language they speak, and then let's see. Creative learning and repetitive learning. So have you ever spent time with maybe a young child or someone with just a really poor attention span, and you've had to say the same thing over and over and over again before the message stuck, or like the traditional thing I think of is like a mom to a child, like, how many times do I have to repeat myself? Right? Our subconscious is a lot like that. Our subconscious only ever learns through repetition. Our subconscious only ever learns through repetition. And so if we go to our conscious, or if we try to go to our subconscious once a week, it's not going to be effective. It's going to be better than nothing, but it's not going to be effective. It's kind of like going up to someone and being like, or here's a better example. It's kind of like going up to a really, really young baby once a week and saying, do you remember me? My friend actually told me a story about how, oh yeah, and I go to the fiends' go, switching to the go fiends. I don't know what that was. My friend told me this story recently about how her husband, I think it was my cousin actually, yeah, I know, right? Voices in my head. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Settle down there. You're too excited. We can't focus on one thought at a time. Hello, Silver Stream System. I was sending you video messages and then realized I'm just going on a verbal tangent, so I decided to come on live instead. It might be a little all over the place, but it's totally going to talk about stuff that we're talking about. So if you have any questions, let me know. This one's for you, baby. I don't know which part of this was that. That was funny. I feel it when we say these like different things and use different tones of voice or different aspects of humor and stuff. Like I feel these little shifts in my brain. Oh, there's even like a vein pulsing thing that wasn't there before. That's funny. I mean, unless I just didn't notice it, but I think that's new. That little line there. Okay, anyway. So my cousin was telling me about how he's a young baby right now. And when he goes to work during the week, his own child completely forgets who he is. He comes home at night and says goodnight to this little baby, and she just looks at him like he's a complete stranger. And then on the weekends, when there's this intense time spent together, a couple of whole days, she knows who he is. Our subconscious is a lot like that. If we're not showing up on a daily basis, our subconscious is like, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you even trying to talk to me? You're not, what? And so it has to be this very repetitive thing. And that's how the subconscious communicates. We have so many random catchphrases that totally come from different parts. I love that. It's so cool. there's a little fun assignment you could do if you like today. Write down different things, like this part is most likely to say, and then, and even if parts don't have names, you could say, when I'm in this type of, when I'm in this type of state, a hypomanic type of state, an anxious type of state, a depressed type of state. And so even if you don't know the specific like names of parts or haven't quite gotten to that piece, you could still totally identify them in that sense. And when you can put phrases to each of them, it actually is a piece of the healing journey, and it can validate their existence and can improve communication. So we have to show up for our consciousness on a daily basis. It has to be repetitive to be effective. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay. So, the language of our consciousness, they speak different languages. Why is it important? Because our subconscious is the vast majority of who we are, and it can lead to all sorts of stuff, bad stuff, if we don't pay attention to it, and it can lead to all sorts of magic if we do pay attention to it. So, the next thing I was going to draw is identity. Hear the chickens out there. So, how does one define themselves? It's typically one, appearances. I am skinny, I am fat, I am this, I am that, I am tall, I am short. It's all these very superficial physical things, and we identify with it. I am blonde-haired. I am pale, whatever it might be. And then another way that we identify who we actually are is our role in society. I am a daughter, sister, whatever you want to put. I am a student. I am a teacher. I am employed. I am disabled. Okay, and then the other thing is our personal attributes. Oh my gosh, you guys are so noisy. You're so noisy. Yeah, you guys. Yeah. What's that, hen? Probably announcing that she laid an egg. So excited. I hear you. I had a hard time eating this morning too. I still only got halfway through, but at least I'm full. For us, it was for today, anyways. It's different issues every day, but eating's always a challenge. Today it was because we exercised and it triggered our flight parts out, and it felt really great, but we were so like high energy, the body just had no interest in eating, and so it was like this whole process we had to go through to be able to eat. And so appearance, role in society, and then personal attributes like I am lazy, I am a hard worker, I am prompt, I am, speaking of prompt, I have to get ready for Cairo, I forgot. I almost canceled my appointments. My brain's like, we're not going today. Okay, so we have all these different ways of defining who we are, right? But in doing that, we get too caught up in what we're experiencing and we over-identify with our experiences. So the traditional way is to say, I am my experiences. But in doing that, without knowing it, we add this little thing, our subconscious understands this message as, I am nothing more. And when we over-identify with our experiences, we give away our power because our experiences then have the power instead of us. And so we reclaim our power. That's not the ideal way. We reclaim our power by separating self from symptom. And we say, I am, while all of that stuff is still going on, it's still all part of our reality. All of these things, all these different ways of defining who we are, it's still part of our reality. It's still there. We're not magically getting rid of the stuff we don't like, but we're separating our identity and our worth. And therefore, our capabilities our power and our potential. If we can separate from what we're experiencing, we reclaim our power in just astronomical ways. And so, how do we do this? So, we understand why it's important now. How do we do this? This is where the unblending technique can come in handy. And so instead of saying, I am in pain, I can say, I am presently experiencing pain. I am not the pain, but I happen to be having this experience where pain is an element of that experience. I am presently experiencing pain. Or if you want to even take the I am out, you could say, my body is experiencing pain. And that causes even more distance from it, so you get to reclaim your power. Because we automatically do this, but when we can use this unblending technique and tap into who we truly are, where was I going with that? I don't even know. We're switching. Daily dissociation. So if we say, instead of I am in pain, say I am presently experiencing pain, or take it a step further and take out the I am altogether, my body is experiencing pain. We create distance. That's what I was about to say. We create distance, which gives us more power. Okay? I did that the other day when my gallbladder was hurting. I'm so proud of you. It's so hard to do. Like, when we're in that, just the conscious mind, the monkey mind, it is constantly going, and it feels very unnatural to take a step back. And for me, it always felt like I was invalidating my pain by not identifying with it. But I realized that was only because I had identified with it so long that I didn't know who I was if I wasn't my pain. And that was like this whole other scary journey that I had to dive into. And so, where was I even going with this? I'm not in the same state of consciousness as when I started this video. Like, not at all. What was I came on here to say something really specific. Language of our consciousness. Our subconscious communicates with a different language. If we try using the language of our conscious awareness, the message it's not going to get through. And it's important because our conscious awareness is a very, very teeny tiny piece of who we actually are, and there's all this other stuff going on. And if we're not tapping into that 95%, we're not living in our power. We're going to be unhappy. Our health is going to suffer. Our well-being and potential will suffer. And from that, there's dis-ease in the body. It creates disease. The physical health suffers. Relationships suffer. We're unable to strive for the goals that would create this feeling of happiness and fulfillment and connection and joy and serenity. And we don't have this healthy sense of identity or worth. And that causes us to suffer because we're not establishing healthy boundaries. We're not pursuing our worth. We're settling. We're not fighting for improvement because we don't believe we're even worth it or we even have the power to achieve it. And so a big piece of that is, where's our identity? And the fact is, we're generally identifying with our experience. We're identifying with our circumstances. We're identifying with the year we were born, the family we were born in, the background we come from, the society that we grew up in, the type of education we've experienced, the quality of friends that we've had in the past and the present, the quality of loving relationships we've had in the past and the present, the quality of thoughts we think on a daily basis, the quality of the emotions that we experience. All of that comes back to identity. And I don't get to experience peace, joy, and fulfillment like never before when I'm over-identifying with my struggles. If I were over-identifying with my struggles, I wouldn't be on Instagram right now. I'd be in bed crying. Like, I know this for a fact. It's not like, oh, maybe I'd be like not as well as... No, I wouldn't even be here right now if I was identifying with my circumstances and my pain and my struggles. And so... yeah, I was so glad that makes sense, David. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, yeah. This is Bambi and Ocean and Ferocity, I think. I'm not really sure. There's all sorts of parts. And so our identity... okay, let me see how to phrase this. We give away our power. We forfeit personal power when we identify, or I guess I should say over-identify, because there's some healthy identification with things. Like I identify my courage by seeing the circumstances I've been in and how I applied that courage. So it's not like our circumstances have no relevance, but they should not be the defining factor, you know? So we forfeit personal power when we over-identify with our circumstances, our background or past, our struggles, we switched again. I guess I should go get grounded before Cairo. But anyway, so we'll talk about that and then why repetition is important. And so we reclaim our power. Reclaim power. How do we reclaim our power? Reclaim our power by daily repetition with the messages we want to believe. And so I want to believe that my body's not going to be in pain forever. I want to believe that I'm not going to feel as weak as I do forever. I want to believe that I could exercise and do all these physically strenuous things without like killing myself, basically. I want to believe all of that is possible. And so every single day, I invest in that goal mentally and physically. I'm mentally saying, what I'm experiencing now isn't forever. And because I believe this, I'm going to take action and do yoga even though it hurts. I'm going to do this even though it hurts. I'm going to go to Cairo even though it doesn't seem like it's magically fixing anything. It's all so gradual. It's like, what am I even doing? And people can really easily talk us out of this stuff because they're like, oh, well, I don't see the benefits immediately. But that is them coming from their own conscious awareness that they haven't done the subconscious work. If you interact with someone who's done the subconscious work and isn't living fully in that I need to understand everything and plan everything and control everything kind of state, you know, that ego state, people are going to be supportive of the internal work that you're doing. Only people who haven't done the work are going to dismiss the work you're doing. And so it's important to remember that people are only going to come from a place that they can understand. Like, people can only meet you as deeply as they have met themselves. And if they haven't done the work, they're going to invalidate the work you're doing because it scares them. So let it scare them. Don't take what they say to heart. Know that you are doing exactly what you need to be doing. You are exactly where you need to be. And it's all worth it. It might not be worth it right away, but nothing great in life ever is. And if we're dissatisfied with the quality of life we're experiencing, then we know something's got to change anyway. And what better way than to do something small every day? It's going to have the most power. It doesn't have to be this big, overwhelming thing. It can be this small thing every day. Yeah, that's so right. Thanks, David. I'm so glad you agree, dude. Fiends. Our kids love hanging out out here. Borderline witch. I have to go in a minute, but I love you. I'm so glad you got to pop in. We're talking about some great stuff today. I saw you're having a hard day too. I'm sending you love. I completely understand those triggers, Becca Riley, and I know that it's going to pass, and you can use the failing up approach and learn anything and everything you can about your parts during this time, and take this opportunity to extend that extra depth of compassion to yourself. And when we do that, we reclaim our power. Even if the feelings don't change right away, we absolutely are transforming from the inside out. I believe in you. So we reclaim our power through daily repetition with messages we want to believe. And so how do we start this? We first identify the messages that need changing. Identify messages needing transformation. And so this might be anxiety, depression, PTSD, past traumas causing intrusion and disrupting our ability to be present and experience life as we are intended to. And it could be physical pains, and not just the really intensive medical problems, but just like general achiness. Like, it could be that kind of stuff. Physical aches, just kind of a looming mental fog. That can be something to be addressed. So it could be really general, or it could be really specific. It could be a message that needs transforming is, I am not enough. That's a message I've worked really hard to transform this year. I'm so glad you're feeling better. That makes me so happy. I love you. All my parts love you. It could be healing is impossible. It could be I'm too damaged or broken to ever succeed or be whole. There's all sorts of messages that need transforming, and once we can identify them, then we can go about and find specific ways to identify them. And so from there, you can establish a game plan, create daily rituals that will specifically combat those negative messages, those chronic negative messages. A big one for me was just, I can't do this. Just a very general, I can't do it. I can't. Physical, mental, relational, career. It's all over the place. It was just, I can't do it. I'm not enough. I can't get there. Thanks so much, David. That really means so much. I really appreciate your empowering support. It means the world. And so once we identify the messages need changing, we can establish daily rituals that will specifically combat those messages. And this is done through, firstly, it has to be daily repetition. And so in this aspect, it's almost quantity over quality. It's not necessarily showing up fully in a lot of time, but it's like bit by bit by bit by bit, and even if you can't fully show up, you're showing up anyways. So it's almost opposite of normal. It's it's almost about quantity versus quality at first, right? And then over time, it evolves into more quality. But at first, you don't have the opportunity to have quality meditations. When there's all these different things going on, it's not going to be a quality meditation. You're not going to walk away feeling all magically zen and in touch with yourself. No, that comes years into the journey. And so at first, it's just showing up every day, despite how you feel and despite how it goes. Like, if yoga or meditation was really intense or painful or awkward, uncomfortable or scary yesterday, it would be easy for me to say, I just don't want to do it today. And then boom, my subconscious goes, oh, okay, I guess you're not really serious about this. I guess you didn't want to change and grow. All right, I'm just going to kick back and do what I've been doing all these years. See ya. And it's going to be for, and again, remember that all parts of consciousness within structural dissociation, they're all in our subconscious. So any work we're doing with our parts requires working with our subconscious. You can't get to parts without doing the subconscious work. So daily repetition, number 1. Number 2, affirmations. The consciousness, let me check the time again. I have half an hour. I know, right? Doing all this sick, we're all amazing. I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, too. Yeah, I'm so proud of you, Paul. I'm so proud of you, Ocean, for showing up even when you're sick. I'm so proud of you guys. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I see you. I see your efforts. So our conscious awareness understands linear time. Our subconscious, everything is in the present tense. Everything. Which is why when we experience something projected from our subconscious, it feels like it's happening all over again. It's not actually because we're going back in time and reliving it. It's because our subconscious is projecting this message in the present tense, and we're literally reliving it. And so our subconscious only communicates in present tense, and our subconscious also only communicates through like direct messages. Like if we say, I am not tired, our subconscious isn't going to translate that and say, I am energized. That's not going to happen. We have to do that. We have to phrase things as we want them to be understood. And so when I started trying to use affirmations, it was a lot of like negative stuff, like I am not dying, I am not anxious, I am not depressed. And all I was saying to my conscious is depression, anxiety, exhaustion. And that's what it was understanding. It gets these very general present tense messages. And so we have to word things the way we want them. So when we use affirmations, it's present tense and positive. I am energized. I am whole. I am safe. I am healing. It's not, I will heal. It's not, I want to heal. It's not, someday I'll heal. It's not, I'm working on healing. No. Right here, right now, present tense, I am healing. That's when our subconscious starts to listen. Okay? We wrote some stuff down during this. We'll share with you. Yay! That makes me happy. I really appreciate being able to engage with you guys in this capacity. It helps my brain show up on a better level. So identity, we forfeit personal power when we over-identify with our circumstances, blah, 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 reclaiming power. 1, identify messages. 2, establish, this is basically, I'm outlining stuff to create curriculum for Healing Journey Homeschool. Every time I try to sit down and do it, it doesn't happen, so I need to be engaging and then I'll take these notes and go make some high-quality video content for the course. So establish a game plan, daily repetition, show up despite how you feel, quantity versus quality, affirmations, binaural beats, and healing vibrations or healing frequencies. Healing vibrations, frequencies, repetition, so mantras. Again, those would be positive and present tense. And then intuitive body movement. can allow for subconscious communication, freehand journaling. So not overthinking, but just letting stuff flow onto the pages, which can be hard at first, but once we kind of get that ability, we can have this direct contact with our subconscious. But again, it has to be this daily thing, or if we even take like some time off and we go to journal, our conscious awareness says, okay, let me think about what to write. And so we have to continually show up in order for our subconscious to be like, oh, okay, this is my time to talk to you. All right, so we got a good amount of stuff down. I still forget why I originally came on here. I had something specific to say. I don't remember what it was. All right, so in summary, the language of our consciousness, totally different. It's important to learn the language. Our conscious awareness is only 5% of what's happening. It can lead to all sorts of problems if we neglect the majority of who we actually are. Identity is a big theme. This is what we traditionally identify with. When we can create distance from what's happening, that is when we can have the ability to tap in to our soul self. Who or what is your soul self? Okay? So it's like that one quote I really love that says, oh man, I'm totally going to butcher it. I'm going to Google it because I don't want to butcher it. I got to go in a minute, just a fair forewarning, but I really appreciate this time we got to spend, and I will be back on later today after Cairo. Let's see. All right, let me see if this comes up. Oh yeah, here it is. Unfuck yourself. Be who you were before all of that stuff dimmed your fucking shine. That is a big piece of what soul self is. It's uncovering who we actually are. It's not that we have to like take away stuff and replace it with something. No, our soul self is already there. It's already in existence. We just gotta like get the icky stuff off so we can see who we actually are. And that process is working with our subconscious. So who we are. I'm going to write down this quote. Unfuck yourself. Always loved that, and now I know why. Oh man, I'm hot. I need to go get ready for Cairo. I know. You already told me that. Don't stress this out, man. Okay. Unfuck yourself. Be who you were before all that stuff happened that dimmed your fucking shine. Okay? So, being surrounded by the wrong people is the loneliest place in the world. I'm going to read the whole thing. This looks good. And then I have to go for real. I don't want to go. I want to hang out with you guys. That's another good one. I stopped waiting for the light at the end of the tunnel and lit that bitch up myself. I posted that repeatedly over the years. That's so funny. Are you really happy or just really comfortable? That's a really good one. I love it. Okay. All right. We'll come back to all of this later today. I'll be back in a couple hours, so stay tuned. And if you have any thoughts on anything I shared or anything you want me to explain better or give more examples for or something, just let me know. Everything always makes sense in my subconscious, but then when I verbalize it, it's like, is this making sense? And thinking back even to where I was a year ago, I don't think most of the stuff would have made sense. And I'd like to be able to explain it effectively enough that me from a year ago could grasp pieces of it, even with the darkness we were experiencing. So that's kind of my hope. And so I would love to hear, what made sense, what didn't, what was like, that kind of makes sense, but I don't really quite understand it on an applicable level. So I'd love to hear your feedback. Feel free to message me. I love that you took notes. Thank you so much. I hope to have a great appointment. please, yeah, stay tuned, and I will be back on, I'm guessing, in about 2 hours, but we'll see how the day goes. Have a beautiful and blessed day, my soul friends. In light and love. Namaste.
Great. Okay, I figured it out. Hi, it's nice to meet you. It's nice to see you. I'm just really grateful that we can talk, and please keep talking because I think we can be good support for each other. So cool. Great.
So wonderful to meet you face to face in person, quote unquote. I would love to stay in contact and be a support for each other. I would love to hear more about where you're at in your journey. I know you mentioned a couple things in the email, but I would love if you feel comfortable to hear more. I became disabled 4 years ago, and basically 2 years ago, it got a peak where I couldn't even do like odd jobs around town kind of a thing. And so this healing journey's been my full-time investment. And I know most people don't have the capacity to make it a full-time investment. And so I'm hoping to use this opportunity to learn as much as I can and share that so things can be applied more effectively, and it doesn't need to be this extensive learning process, but we can just apply stuff and start experiencing healing kind of a thing. I'm hoping to use this opportunity. So I'm using this opportunity to understand the depths of healing, and in that process I'm creating Healing Journey Homeschool, which will be a mental health life coaching program. It's still in its very early stages, and so in the process of creating that, I share that on Patreon. I know you'd mentioned Patreon, and no pressure whatsoever, of course, to join, but the invitation is absolutely there. And just a little personal peek into what it is and why it's like important and has value. Depending on what level of tier you subscribe to, the $3 tier, I share coping tools. And so it's stuff that, I mean, if I had had these tools years ago, I wouldn't have suffered the way that I had. And so there's stuff there. And then all the way up to the $25 tier, I share my intimate therapy. I've been in training for over a year to be my own therapist because I couldn't find anyone qualified, and I'm now effectively applying it. For the past month, I've actually been experiencing relief and integration and progress moving forward. And then all the tiers in between have great value and content as well. Of course, there's at the $10 tier, I share my personal healing journey homeschool, and so every day I'm studying, I'm reading, I'm researching, I'm sharing what I'm learning, that kind of thing. So let me know if you have any questions. Just want to give you insight. It is so absolutely important to have the connection and support needed for the healing journey. I'm not sure if you use Facebook at all, but if you do, we have the Community of Kindred Connections. It's a really, really great support group I started earlier this year. It saves me regularly. Yeah. I would love to hear more about your healing journey and what you are doing and how things are going and how I can support you, friend. This is Bambi. Yeah, that was Felicity before with our dissociative identity. All right, and now off to Cairo.